Okay, I've drawn two lines just to help me. One will be the far horizon and one will be a line just to keep my land masses in level, as there's nothing worse than uphill water. I've taped it down because I don't need to move it round, and now wetting the paper. No puddles, but nice and wet. We need that because we're going to do the sky, and the sky requires it to blend into each other and all sorts of. So I'm looking for the sheen, and I'm going to wet it and then leave it whilst I just mix up some colours ready to use. So I says I'm going to use lemon yellow. So I'll get some lemon yellow. This needs to be quite wet because I find that lemon yellow dries the quickest of all. So there's a pool of lemon yellow. Then I'm going to do a mix of lemon yellow and alizarin crimson. There's my alizarin. Just a daub to start off with because it's very strong. And you get a corally. Oh, you see? Strong. You get a coral. Yeah, that will be fine. Then I'm just going to activate the cobalt blue and put that there. When you're mixing paint like this, use a sort of a medium-sized one because you don't want too much water when you drag it over, put it onto the palette, but you want enough bristles to agitate it and get it going. Make sure you wash your brush well in between, otherwise you end up with mud. And then I'm going to use a mix of, for the dark, alizarin crimson, cobalt blue. See how it comes out lovely and dark? You've got a dark purple. And then a little bit of lemon yellow should make it go grey, but it hasn't, so put more cobalt blue in, more alizarin crimson, cobalt blue. Sorry, come on, go grey. Okay, give up. I'll put some black in. There we are. That's it. That's all I should need. Now my once clean water is not. So check the paper. It's still got a sheen on it, but I'm just going to give it a little bit more wet. If yours is wet enough, don't do this bit. This is me just being chefy. Okay. What we're doing? Oh yeah, I know. So I'm using a number 8 long round for this. And we start with the lightest first, which is the lemon yellow. And we've got to work fairly quickly. Otherwise, it might dry, particularly those of you in hot climates. So with lemon yellow, push it into the paper all over. in splodges. You see what I mean? So don't worry about there's the horizon line, because the water is going to reflect the sky. Next bit, the orangey colour that we made. Splodge that in. It's just pushing it in. Leave a few white spaces. Do some a bit darker than the others. Then we have the cobalt blue. And where you've left some white space, just splodge it in. Try not to put it in too much and move it around where you've got the yellow. Otherwise, you'll end up green. And that's not the look that we want for the top half doesn't have to reflect the bottom half. As long as you've got the same three colours in it, the eye will say, yeah, that's what we're doing. No problem. And if you can, put a little bit of dark in each of the top corners so that it frames it. And you can do it the same with the bottom corners, because that would be a reflection. I'm not quite happy with my orange as it is in there. So I'm just going over where I can without it. I'm looking to see that it's still wet. That's about it, really. Bit of orange over there. You could even, if you wanted, put in a tiny touch of alizarin crimson, and I do mean just tiny, don't have much at all, otherwise you're going to look, it's going to look a bit strange. There you are, a bit of pink. So we need a bit of pink in the bottom. It should be still wet, that it just blends in and looks like a fluffy little cloud. And I think I need a bit of something there, because that's it. That'll do me, I think. And we have to wait now, or get to the hairdryer and dry it. So I'm going to I'm now going to stick in the far mountains, which is the back, well, which is the horizon. It's not back or front, it's horizon. I've mixed up cobalt blue and alizarin crimson, and I've come up with a purpley colour. I don't want it too dark, so that's fine. So with a small brush, and this time I'm using a number 2 round, I'm just going to do a line above that top pencil line of mountains. They're a purpley colour, which is good because it's sunset, isn't it? So a sort of jaggedy line. I've got some funny paper here. You can be dramatic with your mountains, or you can be gentle. Have a bit sticking up high there. This, to my mind, is in Switzerland. And it's probably Lake Geneva. We're wet there. I've sort of gone very pale over this, the right side, because sometimes these things disappear off into the distance. So I'm keeping the left side a little bit darker. And the real reason that I've gone pale here is because it's still wet. But we're not saying anything. So I'm just giving a couple of little peaks. And that's it. Could really do the Pyrenees. There we are. That is the, oh, I can't remember now. Never mind. We can see that from the house, that jaggedy one there. Okay. I'm just going to go underneath. I've got a bit of a bleed there, so I'm just going underneath. You're not really going to see it because the foreground land mass is going to come in, but it's nice to have it correct. And we should probably need to dry that. I've made up some more dark paint, and we're now going to do this land here. So I'm starting off. I'm using a larger brush. This is a number 8 long round, and I'm going to start off above this, and I'm doing it jaggedy. So I'm going up and down, and then pulling to the right, and then fill it in. So it's all blocked in. Then with a rigger brush, you rigger, if you've got it handy, clean water, just damp, just pull 1 or 2 lines up, because they will be your trees. You don't need any more paint, but if it's not working, put a bit more paint on it. I'm just pulling them up to give you the thought of the tops of trees sticking up. Don't do it all the way along, but just in every so often. Now you've done that one, you do the other one exactly the same. So I'm coming to where? There. Yeah. I reckon that's equal. Anyway, so I start above there, up and down, I'm going to pull to the left, coming down. And block it in. Then with the same brush, the same sort of thing, pulling up to get tops of trees. Just they're too indistinct to see any branches or anything like that. I'm just going to have to put a little bit of paint on. And that is that bit. They are equal. I'm going to come along there. Doesn't matter that I'm actually gone over that a bit because we're going to put the reflection in there. Just do a few more trees. If the water doesn't do it alone, when you're pulling up, add a bit of paint. Make some taller than others, make some thicker. You know they're not trees, but the eye says, oh yes, they're trees. And the next thing to do is there's a rock in front. So again, I'm just doing this freehand. Start off with its bottom. Make sure the bottom is level. Put the rock in like that. And with a clean brush, wiped it off, and it's slightly damp. I'm just going underneath with clean water in the same shape almost as the rock. Then with a little bit of paint, I'm just going to paint that in. A bit more than that. That's it. That's a sort of a I don't like that bit there, so I'm going to block that up with a bit of tissue. So it's a bit of an elongated shadow reflection. And you can, with your rigger, damp if you want, or damp, yes, just pull some of those bits out. Clean, it's just, there's no paint on this, it's just water. And I'm just pulling the bits out side to side. So it looks as if the water is slightly moving, but not that much. We're going to do the left side reflections now. So with clean water on a larger brush, re-wet underneath in more or less in the shape that you've got your land. I've made it a bit bigger so the paint has got somewhere to run to. Then with your paint, and using horizontal strokes, put in that reflection. You might need a little bit more paint just to, because they'll be quite dark, that reflection. But it should not leave a hard edge because you've got water. Then with a thin brush, damp and then dry it off a bit so it's a thirsty brush, lift off some ripples. So I'm pulling a damp brush through that paint, wiping it with a tissue and doing it again. You want about 3 in. Whoa. So I'm probably doing it twice and wiping it in between, and then on the third time I'm putting it in clean water. So I'm just pushing down a bit and just dragging it through. That's it. And it takes off that paint. That one has closed up a bit because it's still wet, so you might have to redo. So pushing down and pulling to the right. Now I've got a line where my water is, the water I put on to re-wet, and the paint layer underneath. So I've just dabbed that up with a tissue. And I'm going back in again into my ripples. Just to, because paint, when you do that, you push the paint aside, you lift some and you push some other aside, but it's still wet, so it comes back into the where you've lifted. So that's one side, and now we've got to do the other side the same way. So clean water on the brush, re-wet. Whoa. Re-wet in the shadows, in the reflections shape. Make it a bit bigger than your actual reflection so the paint's got somewhere to go. Get the same colour. And with horizontal strokes, put your reflection in. It will sort of soften as it gets to the edges, which is why we wet it first. They're about the same density. I'm doing it actually smaller than I want because the paint is bleeding or is spreading. And then we have the lifting for the ripples. So clean brush. And I find this very difficult. In fact, almost impossible. So I have to go the other way. A clean brush. Thirsty. Just damp water twice, wipe twice, clean water on it the third time. This is drying quite quickly, so I'm going to look at that edge, that wet edge, and just dab it up a bit. And the third. If this isn't working for you, don't worry. If you've got some white acrylic or gouache or Dr. Martens, which is gouache, it will be fine. You can just put the white lines on afterwards. I think that's it for reflections and
Use.
Okay, so we've done all that. We're now just going to put some foliage in around the bottom. I've made up some more of the dark colour. And I'm going to put in, I probably want 4 slightly bigger trees than the rest. So I'm just going to do a line. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want the foliage to be lowest here, so you see the rock, and then going up perhaps at the sides. I'm using a number 4 long round and starting over at the left hand side, splodging with bits sticking out. You can probably hear it scratching on the surface of the paper. Now come to a tree, and we do the tree shape. It's just the top of the tree, so you know. And there's the next one to it. And we go splodge our way across. Just random, really. My hand is going like that. I'll put some dots and some lines. And we've got another tree. More dots and lines. That's not as dark as the rest. And then that tree there. And I'm going to have a gap because obviously that the tree underneath it is smaller. So you don't see the top, and then come up to splodge it. And I'm just putting a little bit of the neutral tint down the bottom to give it the shadow. Just along the bottom there, pushing it up into the hopefully wet shapes at the bottom. This is all a bit samey down here, so I'm just adding one or two bits that stick up, keeping in mind that rock. I'm doing dots and lines at the top there, and this one also. Some of them don't even have to be joined on because you're just doing a bit of, it's the little leaves sticking out that you would get to see at this view. I need that to come up higher on the left so that it frames it. So there should be no white spaces at the very bottom of the picture. As you get higher up, you can see the leaves and if you get your brush and it's almost dry, you can just push it down and it gives you that sort of little twiggy look. It doesn't do your brush any good, but so I've got almost dry brush. I get some more paint, and the paint's very dry, and just poke it. And I think, birds, I think I'm done with the tree. And using the same colour, I'm just going to put some birds in. Trying not to get my hand in it. So I'm just going to do a few ducks. Ducks are a little line, tiny little line, and either their wings go up or down. There's always a lead duck, obviously. There's a tiny little line. That's it. I think I'm just going to put in. This is now termed as sfaffing. That stone didn't quite have the right reflection for me. And a few sticky bits with the rigger. Just a few sticky bits. And that's it. Put it down, stop fiddling.